and welcome to another edition of the One Team We Agree On. I'm Jillian.
And I'm Kyle. And we are live from LA once again for our third episode. So we have a very special guest on, former All-American goalkeeper at George Mason. Post-college stops for overseas, Philadelphia Freedom, and then she returned to United States Soccer as assistant with University of Richmond, and now is leading the Parenting Soccer Association. Ladies and gentlemen, Skye Eddy. Skye, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me. We're in convention mode. A lot going on.
Definitely. So Skye, starting out, talk a little bit about how you got into playing soccer and playing soccer overseas.
Yeah, well, I've always played soccer. I grew up, fortunately, in a really progressive area, Reston, Virginia. So I am a Title IX baby, was born in 1971, and really do feel like I had, so many opportunities afforded to me as a female. My older brother played soccer, so, from a really young age, was really engaged with the sport. And grew up playing in WAGS, Washington Area Girls Soccer, was the league at the time. It was really the first all-girls league in the United States, and grew up playing ODP, Region 1, with our youth national team programs, and made my way to college. I actually played 4 years or 3 and redshirted a year at the University of Massachusetts and transferred my last season to Mason, where we had a really spectacular year, losing in the national championship game, which is amazing to make it there, but I was the goalkeeper and we did lose 6-0, so not the greatest way to end your collegiate playing career. But well after I graduated from college, I made my way over to Italy and played for Tavagnacco Femminile and Udine. But you're right. Before that, I played in Philadelphia for the Philadelphia Freedom. Take the train up every Friday and play some games for a amateur team there that played at the German-Hungarian club just outside Philly. So,
what was that experience like playing over in Italy?
Oh, well, it was spectacular. It was certainly a life highlight for me, 100%. It's an experience that I reflect on in my work now with soccer parenting all the time, and really just have some of my great memories from that. But I was only there a really brief time. I was there just over 4 months. The visa that I needed didn't really play out, and there were some issues with the team. And so while it was such a short-lived experience, it's amazing how instrumental it was in really forming a foundation for me for the work that we're doing here about inspiring players. And I love to see, we have the draft here for women, like the growth of the women's game is phenomenal. And so my experience in Italy was incredible, and now I love to see that there's so many domestic opportunities for women with the growth of the Super League that's coming out, the USL Super League for women, another top-tier professional league that'll be launched, and obviously the NWSL as well.
Yeah, no, it's huge just to see, from my short time following soccer, as heavily just the growth of the women's game. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah,
so can you tell us a bit about your friendship with Phil Wedden?
Sure, yeah, goalkeeper coach for the Union, Phil Wedden. Phil and I first started working together for Tony DeCicco and Soccer Plus camps, and really kind of grew up as coaches there. I have a hilarious picture of me and Phil my first week working for, I don't know if it was my first week, maybe my second week working for Soccer Plus. And Phil is there, we're in our early 20s and had a great experience. Tony was such a great mentor for me. I'm sure Phil would say the same thing. And so, to spend the summers on the road with Soccer Plus, often co-directing or working with Phil for camps was phenomenal. He's an incredible coach, an incredible human being. His knowledge about the game, the position, is something that the Union, that Andre Blake has such an advantage having him as a coach. Absolutely.
What's something like in terms of a goalkeeper coach? What do you, and just knowing Phil yourself, what are some of the skills? Like, what is he good really at as a coach? Like, obviously he's super knowledgeable, But what would you say is some of his key strengths?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Phil is so innovative with his approach to training. He's always looking into the future of what could be an innovative way to train and support goalkeepers. He does a lot of the vision training with the goggles, and I don't know exactly what that's called. But the other thing about Phil is just his player management, his relationship ability, his ability as a goalkeeper as well. We are, it's a lonely position, and having a coach that you trust and that you can rely on and that you can learn and grow from, is such a privilege and an important aspect for goalkeeping. And Phil really has those people skills with the players that he's working with. And he's the goalkeeper coach for the first team, but he's director of goalkeeping for the whole unit. So he's really integrating with the goalkeeping instruction and what's happening at the academy level, and really influencing the goalkeeping education and the pathway of goalkeepers from the very beginning connection to the union up into the first team.
Yeah. No, the union are incredibly lucky to have him. Just listening to his podcast.
He better buy me dinner after this.
No, we had an opportunity just to sit there and just pick his brain for a little bit, and us knowing very little about the coaching aspect of it, more just from watching the game. It was amazing, just the knowledge he just shared with us in that brief time, and the energy. That was the other thing I really appreciated, just the energy of just talking to him. It was really good.
Yeah.
So let's shift focus now to, what inspired you to start soccer parenting? What was the main focus of this? Because what you're doing is amazing. So I'm just really curious about that story.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I founded Soccer Parenting over 10 years ago. I thought as my kids were coming up in the game, my daughter is now 23, my son is 20. As my kids were coming up in the game, I thought, being a soccer parent is going to be so easy for me because I'm a former player, I'm an active coach, I love working with kids, I've got this. And to be clear, being a soccer parent was hard. My daughter, who's older and had high performance dreams, she played in college. My daughter was an All-American as well, collegiately. She has a much different mentality than I do, though. So I was feeling a lot of stress as a parent. So that's certainly one reason, or one thing that prompted me to start Soccer Parenting, because I became very curious about how I could show up for my daughter to make sure that her experience was inspiring. And so through that curiosity, I started interviewing people and started creating content for soccer parents that was content that was useful for me in my process as a parent, and I knew would also be equally useful for other parents. Our mission at Soccer Parenting is to make youth soccer better, and we deeply believe that parents will be difference makers in improving the game, and that when parents seek information about how to best support their player, that great things will happen. And so we're really trying to drive the curiosity of parents so that the end result will be players that stay in the game longer, players that fall in love with the game, regardless of the level that they'll eventually play.
Great.
Yeah. So, what are some tools both coaches and parents can use that can help the athletes?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first off, I just presented earlier today here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. My topic today was about how we can create a culture of parent engagement within our club structures. And so, coaches being really intentional about the environment that they're providing, and being really intentional about engaging with parents is essential. We have a tool that that our club partners are using. It's a Soccer Parent Resource Center. It's our education platform. So on that is just a robust content platform for parents to receive education and support. I think one thing that parents could do is have perspective. That was one of my struggles, from an empathy standpoint. I was expecting my 8-year-old daughter to act and have the same motivation that I had when I was 15 or 16. And so having perspective.
Yeah, no, and that's something we also talk about with our parents at the swim club we're at. We do a very good job with education, and that's one of the things we talk about is perspective. end goals, wouldn't you say, Jillian?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a partnership. We cannot run like our swim team without the cooperation of the parents and the coaches, and having good communication, and also like we have our monthly parent meetings, for instance, and we really engage with them, and we try to keep everyone looped, because at the end of the day, we are here for the athletes and we want to support them. And I think just the more education and resources that are there can just help it all work so much more smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, parents haven't necessarily been engaged before, and so, excuse me. And so, trying to get parents to engage with an education platform, or actually to even just realize, hey, I play an important role in my child's athletic experience. So a lot of the work that we're doing is just trying to also inspire parents to get more involved. But there's definitely things that they need to be learning about and be thoughtful about in order to support their child. And also, to have that perspective that we were talking about, and that there is nobody that's really providing this information. We don't know. There's not a guidelines for parents. I say this story a lot. Like, my daughter is older than my son, and school was really easy for her. And so when Callie started in elementary school, I just was a parent and supported her as I needed to. But there really wasn't much for me to do, because she sort of worked her way through school with little stress. Now, my son has some learning challenges, and so when my son ended up in school, it became really clear to me, oh wait, I have to learn more. I have to get more engaged. I need to be a little bit more involved in his experience in order to support him so that he can find school inspiring. And so, I say that, I tell that story quite a bit, because I think it's a good thing for parents to think about. Youth sports these days, for the good or the bad of it, it's stressful. And there's a lot of pressure on kids, and the structures are stressful. And so, as parents, we will innately at times feel stress. And so, education is a good way to combat that stress.
Yeah, my experience, I know I'll have parents who are, brand new to the sport, and they're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I have like a million questions, and sometimes they're like, oh, I'm sorry to bother, I'm sorry to give you all this question. I'm like, no, please.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me. I want to help you, because we are a team in this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, parents, I said in my presentation today, I said, what is the one thing that parents fear the most? And when it comes to a coach's perception, and like half of the room was like being portrayed or being thought of as like a crazy soccer parent. Like, we live in fear of a coach thinking that of us. And so the way that we've handled that has oftentimes been to just not engage, not ask questions. And so one of the key things that we're doing at Soccer Parenting is working with coaches on establishing boundaries and being really clear with parents. We want you to talk to us in these situations. And, the door is open to you when your child is struggling with their level of inspiration around the game, or when you have a genuine question about the sport and you're curious about, like, what's the difference between 7v7 and 9v9, and what are these different numbering systems, or whatever your question might be. There are certainly times that we really, really want and need parents to engage with us.
I think you hit the nail on the head there with talking about boundaries and guidelines with parents and coaches, because that's one of the biggest things. What ways can, I guess, not only parents but coaches, that collaboration, what are some of the other, besides boundaries, what are some other issues that you see, especially now, as the modern age athlete is coming up through the developmental ranks?
Sure.
How's that changed since when you played?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, again, going back to my presentation today, I said, how has youth soccer changed over the course of the last 10 years, which is sort of easy for people to go back 10 years. It's sort of really when Soccer Parenting kicked off, so I can kind of get a feel of how and remember what the ecosystem was like. And, coaches, when I ask that question, we're talking about, how much more stressful the pyramid is now for kids, how much more physically demanding the game has become, practices have become more practices, the push for kids to only do one sport at an earlier age, and this early specialization has become a bit more of an issue. Equal to that, though, I've also seen an incredible improvement in the way coaches are perceiving parents and in their desire to engage with parents and to learn more about our work, and to gain access to our education platform for parents as a tool for parents, as a tool for them to engage with them. So we're starting to see a lot of improvements in leadership across the board. So, lots and lots of positives, but certainly the game has evolved a lot over the course of my lifetime, if not even in the last 10 years. And with it has become this sort of general move away from community in sport. And so a lot of our work also is about community building and giving coaches education and information and the resources that they need so that they can establish a sense of community within their teams, which again is sort of too often has sort of been forgotten in the structures that we have.
I would say, community is a big thing, not only in team sports, but even in individual sports. So with that said, what are some of the tools that coaches can use to create a community environment where maybe they are lacking?
Yeah, I talk to coaches a lot about establishing trust. Foundational to the work that we're doing is how we establish trust in the coach-parent relationship. Of course, that goes across any sport. How we engage and so to establish trust, we have to right our wrongs if we make a mistake as a coach. We forgot to substitute somebody, apologize to the player and send a note to the parent and, let them acknowledge that. So right your wrongs. Knowing the names of the parents on your team is an important way of demonstrating respect. You can also establish trust by being confident in yourself, like getting coach education and letting people know that you're trying to support your future as a coach and your ability to impact the lives of the kids that are in front of you. So establishing trust is really key way that coaches can really start to think about that relationship. And I think coaches need to pause and just sort of ask themselves, what they believe to be true about soccer and sports parents. Like, how are they showing up when it comes to that relationship? And have some time to have moments of reflection as well. But in terms of establishing community, we are a big proponent of soccer teams having a social coordinator as well as a team manager. So tasking and being super intentional with tasking a parent on your team with having 3 events throughout the course of the season. Nothing that's going to be really difficult for the parents. Maybe it's just a quick potluck supper one evening instead of practice, or maybe it's ice cream after a Saturday afternoon game that the team all goes to. So just a few little opportunities, but being really intentional about making sure that they happen. So assigning a social coordinator to make sure those happen.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We have someone who does that on our swim team, for example. And honestly, the social things, that's when I've gotten to know some of the parents the most and make those connections. I mean, we just had holiday potluck and everything. And,
fun.
Because a lot of times it's just the parents are out in the lobby and, or it's drop off, pick up, and I don't always get a chance to talk with them. But those are some of the best times, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we remember, too. Like, when I look back on my soccer experience with, the Springfield Patriots or the Reston Ramblers, the 2 club teams that I played on, I don't remember a single game we played except for maybe like a state cup final where Mia Hamm scored on me because we played against each other in high school. Like, I kind of remember that game. I kind of remember a big game in the rain that we played, and it might have been in the Robbie, which used to be a tournament in Ontario, Canada. But, I don't really remember the games, but I remember the birthday parties. I remember the sleepovers and the pool parties and all of those things. So, we need to go back to establishing that sense of connection, because ultimately that'll help our kids have a stronger connection to the sport, decide to stay involved in sport longer so that they can, work their way into having a more healthy adulthood.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And what do you have coming up in the future? What's your future plan for the association? Like, how is it growing and what do you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a high growth phase right now. We have over 230 club partners across the United States. I think probably by the end of 2024, that number will be in the 300 to 400 range. So we're high growth in terms of club partnerships, state association partnerships, league partnerships. So, there's a really big movement right now across the sport ecosystem to effectively engage with parents. So I think the future is, more content, because we're always building content, delivering more content, but is just, this is kind of a growth phase, absolutely, for us. We're launching a few new courses for parents. We already have 6, but we'll probably add 2, maybe even 3 more this year.
That's wonderful to hear. And again, just parent education as coaches, we can't stress that enough. We really can't. So, Skye, do you have
No, I'm very impressed, and I really look forward to seeing, this
Great.
progress and
Yeah.
continue to be a great resource to parents.
Yeah, well, we just launched a partnership with the Eastern Pennsylvania Youth Soccer Association. So now the clubs in your area, in the Philadelphia area, for the listeners that are there, the clubs can become a member for just $250. So, they can learn more on the State Association website about that as well. So, yeah, we're excited to continue and influence soccer in your area as well.
Excellent.
So, in closing, Skye, we'd like to thank you. Where can people find you?
So our website is soccerparenting.com. All my contact information is there. You can also follow Soccer Parenting on any social channels, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and have all my contact, and our DMs are open there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. This was excellent.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And so that's all for this episode of the One Team We Agree On.
And please be sure to follow us on social media. We are at the One Team We Agree On Instagram and Facebook, and on Twitter we are at TOTWAG, and we are on YouTube.
Until next time, I'm Kyle.
I'm Jillian.
And we're live from LA.